This is Pastor Kent, and this is Heaven Elohym's Temple Treatment Center. And this is Pastor Kent, and this is Recovery with Pastor Kent. It's very interesting to see how people in this community, this 12-step community, deal with their issues. Fifth, 20 days till Christmas. Those who want to recover, December the 5th. We have seen the program work for many an addict who honestly and sincerely wants to stop using drugs. That's Basic 10, page 10. It's also out of Tradition 3. And that tradition is the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. How do we know someone honest and sincere wants to stop using drugs? The truth is that we don't. I don't necessarily agree with that. If a person's honestly trying, okay, I agree they want to. Because we can't read minds or know another motives and desires. We simply have to hope for the best. We may talk to a newcomer at a meeting and think we'll never see him again or see them again, only to find them several years later doing well in their recovery. We may need to tempt to give up on someone who keeps relapsing or does not get clean right away. We must not, no matter how unwilling someone may seem. A simple fact remains: the addict is still at a meeting. I can attest to this. I had a sponsee. I kept telling him, get a basic text, read it. He wouldn't listen to me. He kept relapsing. Today, he's sitting at 18 months because he listened. Listen to your sponsors. They know. We may never know the results of our 12-step work. It is not up to us to gauge the willingness of the newcomer. The message we carry is part of us. We carry everything and share it freely, leaving the result of God, then ourselves. I will share my recovery with an addict anywhere, anytime, and under any circumstances. I will leave the results of my God. When we share from the heart, people are touched. Today, I've chosen to speak on the stages of relapse. How do we know when we're in that mode? Relapse is a process. It's not an event. It doesn't just happen. It happens over time. In order to understand relapse prevention, you have to understand the stages of relapse. Relapse starts weeks or months or even years before the event, physical relapse. There are 3 stages to relapse. One is emotional relapse. So from a situation, a death, a person dies that's a friend of yours, and you can't take it. That's an emotional relapse. Mental relapse. You listen to this, okay? You stop listening to this, okay? When we start listening to this and stop listening to this, we have a problem. If we're listening to the head and we're not listening to the heart, you're listening to the committee of idiots and you're going to fail. Physical relapse. That is the last stage of it. Okay? That's when you're actually sitting in the bar with the drink in your hand and saying, how did I get here? And sometimes you may not really know. In emotional relapse, there are thinking about using, but your emotions and behaviors are setting you up for the possibilities of a relapse in the future. The signs of emotional relapse are anxiety, intolerance, anger, defensiveness, mood swings, isolation, not asking for help, not going to meetings, poor eating habits, or poor sleep habits. The signs of emotional relapse. Also, the symptoms of post-acute withdrawal. If you understand post-acute withdrawal, it's easier to avoid relapse because the earlier stages of relapse is easiest to pick up back from. In the later stages, we pull relapse gets stronger and the sequence of event moves faster. So post-acute withdrawal is the actual physical manifestation of being high without getting high. Okay? It's the actual physical manifestation of getting high without being high. Early relapse prevention. Prevention as a stage means recognizing that your emotional relapse and change your behavior. Recognize that there are isolation and remind yourself to ask for help. Recognize that you are anxious and practice relaxation techniques. Recognize that your sleep or eating or slipping in to practice self-care. If you don't change your behavior at this stage, you will not live too long in the stage of emotional relapse. You'll become exhausted, and when you are exhausted, you will want to escape, which will move you into mental relapse. Physical self-care. Practicing self-care. The most important thing you can do to prevent relapse is that the stage is taking better care of yourself. Think about it. Why you use. You use drugs or alcohol to escape, relax, and reward yourself. Therefore, you relapse when you don't take care of yourself and create situations that are mental and emotional during what make you want to escape. For example, you don't take care of yourself and eat poorly and have poor sleep habits. You'll feel exhausted and want to escape. If you don't get your recommended and fears through some form of relaxation, then you will build to the point where you'll find feeling uncomfortable in your own skin. If you don't ask for help, you'll feel isolated. If any of these situations continues for long, you will begin to think about it and using. But if you practice self-care and avoid those feelings from groaning and avoid relapse, you can reference this place, which is Heaven's Gateway Treatment Center. And you can find it you can find it on Facebook. You can find it on the net. Then we step into what's called mental relapse. In mental relapse, there's a war going on in your mind. So, like I said, it's constant barrage of, you're nothing. You'll never amount to anything. You're never going to go anywhere. Put your wants and use. But part of you doesn't. In the earlier phase of mental relapse, you just idly think about it. But the later phase, you'll definitely think about using. The stages of mental relapse are thinking about people, places, and things you used, glamorizing your past, lying, hanging out with old friends and places, fantasizing about the using, thinking about the relapsing, planning for relapse around other people's schedules. It gets harder and harder to make the right choices as we pull our action addiction gets stronger. So make no mistake, if we start thinking about it, we're going to do it. Okay? You need to change that thinking. The three things that I can talk about are HALT, which is hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you're any one of those three, you're in dangerous ground and you need to ask for help. It's a must. Okay? Call your sponsor. If that doesn't work, you get to a meeting, okay? I'm always online, so you can find me online. I can help you with this. I've been through it. Techniques for dealing with mental relapse. Play through the tape through. So play it out in your mind. If I use, this happens, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Play the whole scenario out. When you think about using, the fantasy is that you'll be able to control your use this time. That's a lie straight from your addiction. Straight from the devil, if you want to be technical. You just have one drink. But play the tape through. One drink usually leads to more drinks. You'll wake up the next day feeling disappointed in yourself, guilt, shame, remorse. After being in the 12-step programs, AA or NA, I'm telling you, man, it wrecks your using. You may not be able to stop the next day, and you'll get caught in the same vicious cycle, expecting the same thing from the same results and getting the same results and getting frustrated. When you play the tape through to its logical conclusion, using just doesn't seem appealing. And sometimes we just can't do this alone. A common mental urge is that you can get away with using because no one will know if you relapse. Perhaps your spouse is away for the weekend, or you're away on a trip. That's when your addiction will try to convince you that you don't have a big problem. And that's when you're going to really need your recovery to place your spouse or your work. Play the tape through. Remember yourself, the negative consequences you'll already suffered, and the potential consequences that lie around the corner if you relapse again. If you could control your use, you would have done it by now. Tell someone that you're having issues and urges. Call a friend, a support, or something in recovery. Share with them what you're going through. The magic of serving. That is the minute you start to talk about what you're thinking and feeling, the urges begin to disappear. They don't seem quite as big, and you don't feel as alone. Distract yourself. When you think about using, do something to occupy yourself. Call a friend, call a sponsor, go to a meeting, go out and go for a walk. If you just sit there with the urge and don't do anything, you're going to mental relapse. Room to grow. Wait 30 minutes. Most urges usually last not more than less than 15 or 30 minutes. When you're in an urge, it feels like an eternity. But you can keep yourself busy and do the things you're supposed to do. It'll quickly be gone. Do your recovery one day at a time. Don't think about whether you can stay abstinent forever. That's detrimental when you first get into recovery. That will get you out quicker than anything. That's a plagiarized thought. It's overwhelming, even for people who've been in recovery for a long time. One day at a time means you should not match your goals and your emotional strength. When you feel strong and you're motivated not to use, then tell yourself you won't use the next week, the next month. But when you're struggling and having lots of urges, and those times will often happen, tell yourself that you're going to not use for today, or for the next 30 minutes, or for the next second, or for the next minute. Do it whatever way you have to do. Don't recover bite-sized chunks and subjugate yourself to thinking too far ahead. Make relaxation part of your recovery. Relaxation is a part of relapse prevention, because when you tend to do what's familiar and wrong instead of what's new and right. When you tense, you tend to repeat the same mistakes and made before. When you relax, you are more to change. when we do that, you have to understand that that thinking will get you back out there. Um, that thinking will get you that problem, that issue. That condescending behavior that we start telling ourselves that, oh, just one more time won't hurt us, or it's okay, uh, you know it'll be okay just one more time, I can handle it. This is what your mental relapse will do. Then you get into what's called physical relapse. This is where it gets extremely dangerous. Once you start thinking about relapse, you don't have to use some of the techniques motivated above. It does not take long to go from physical relapse, driving to the liquor store, or driving to your dealer. It's hard to stop the process of relapse at the point. It's not where you should focus your efforts in recovery. Let's achieve abstinence through brute force, but it's not recovery. If you recognize the earlier warning signs of relapse and understand the symptoms of post-acute withdrawal, you'll be able to catch yourself before it's too late. This is, so important that we as addicts and alcoholics understand that it can happen like that. It's that easy. The least little thing can happen and push us over the edge. We need to understand that. Let me pray with you. Abba, thank you for being here with us. Prick spirits and unhardened hearts, that they may know that you are true and right. And we say these things in Yeshua's name. Amen.